Hi guys, I'm Brian McCauley and welcome to the McCauley's Design Workshop. So today is a big day for this guitar build. I haven't actually gotten any farther on the guitar itself, but I have all the tools made that I need to make in order to make the guitar, which it's huge. It's a huge deal. So that's what we're gonna do today in this video. We're gonna make the body mold for the guitar, which will hold everything in place, specifically the sides to the right bend while the guitar is being made. And we're gonna make a bending iron so that we can bend the sides of the guitar. This is probably the ugliest thing I have ever made in this shop, but it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to work. So I cobbled this thing together. This body mold has these spreaders in it that are going to keep the sides tight to the outside of the mold. And they come out. And essentially the construction's really simple. One end has a tube in it, the other end has a threaded rod in it. And when you put them together and tighten this wing nut, it spreads them apart. Next up is the bending iron. You can buy these. The cheapest one I found was like around $210. But I also found a lot of places online, a lot of videos and tutorials about how to build one. So essentially all this is an electronic charcoal starter for a charcoal grill, a piece of steel pipe, a very crude platform to mount the whole thing in, and I put a dimmer switch in it so that I can adjust the temperature. This charcoal starter goes up to 1,000 degrees and I only need about 450 degrees. So hopefully this guy will work and I can dial in the temperature to what I need. So let's build a mold and a bending iron. Alright, to start off I'm just going to use some scrap plywood for this body mold that I've had for a long time. It's from an old project that went wrong. And so I'm just gluing 3 sheets, or 3 pieces that are large enough to make up the entire guitar body. I made a template from my plans of half of the guitar body, and I'll trace that onto the plywood that I just glued up. And so with that traced out, I'll just mark out the sides of the mold. Next, it's off to the bandsaw to cut it out. Here I'm going to cut outside of my line, that way I can take it to my spindle sander and sand it right up to the line. First, I want to make the edges of it that are supposed to be straight, nice and straight. And then I'll take it to my spindle sander and sand all of the curves to the line that we drew earlier. With the first half of the mold the exact shape that I want it, I'll take it back over to the remaining plywood sandwich that we made and trace out the other half. And then I'll cut out this half at the bandsaw, just like the first one, staying away from the line. I'm going to use my router table and a pattern routing bit to make the second half of the template identical to the first. So the first thing I need to do is use some double-sided tape and attach them together. With the pieces together, I'll just run them through my pattern bit and make the second part of the mold identical to the first. Next, I can start working on the spreaders. For the inside pieces, I just use cutoffs from when I originally cut out the shape of the body at the bandsaw. So here we have to measure for the tube that goes in the one end and the threaded rod that goes in the other, and drill the appropriate size holes for each piece. Next, we'll measure the length and get ready to cut it. Now we'll measure the length of the threaded rod and cut it. And now we'll just do a quick fitting and make sure everything works the way that it should. With all of the fitting done, I'm going to glue the threaded rod and the tube into each part of the spreader. For this, I'm using a 2-part epoxy. With the body mold done, we can turn our attention to the bending iron. So here I'm wiring the dimmer switch into the cord for the bending iron. I am not an electrician, so I'm not showing you what I did. I just followed a wiring diagram that I found online. The next thing I need to do is compress the heating element on the charcoal starter so that it will actually fit in the tube. For this, I'm just going to use my vise and crush it. Next, we need to build a brace for the tube to sit in. For this, I'm just using some scrap left over from making the body mold. I'm drilling a hole here for the steel pipe to fit through. And now, really, I'm just cobbling together a base for this thing. I have the piece that holds the pipe, and then I'm going to screw on another piece of scrap to the bottom of that will give me something to clamp it to my bench with when I'm using it. There's really nothing special about this at all. It's the most cobbled together thing I have ever built. But it works, so that's all that really matters. The steel pipe itself was kind of rough, and since I'm going to be bending pretty thin pieces of wood over it, I decided to try and sand it smooth. It actually turned out pretty well. All right, guys, well, that's it. Thanks for watching the video. I know it's not building the guitar itself, but these are necessary steps in building a guitar. So there it is. I guess just like with most things you build, you need specific tools to do it. And since I'm not a luthier, I didn't have these things, so I had to build them. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and by all means, if you have any questions or anything like that, leave them in the comments below. All right, guys, thanks for watching.